Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Elevenses session, which is focused on bidding for success. My name is Aina Kunakor. I am an agency development manager here at Google, and beside me here is Tom Dredge, who's an account strategist at Google. And today we're going to be looking at smart bidding. The agenda is going to be as follows. We're going to talk about how smart bidding has changed over the past couple of years, how smart bidding can help your customers grow, how smart bidding works in general, and also how to evaluate performance.
Brilliant. Yeah. So I think as marketers, we're often told that we need to be actually mastering the customer journey. And really, over the past couple of years, this has got very, very complex and doesn't really follow an exact path anymore. The introduction of mobile and different devices has made that a lot more complex, and it becomes impossible. And no two journeys really look the same at all. And therefore, it becomes very important to actually look at utilizing machine learning to analyze these paths. Likewise, bidding was very simple a few years ago. We would be using bids to bid on keywords, and then the quality score would come into that as well, and we would combine that to give a position. But over the years, that's changed, and now we are looking at mobile devices. Mobile devices came along, and we were looking at things like day of week, locations, time, and interests, and that became a lot more complex. And then the next stage was where we were looking at thousands of different signals, and these are just an example of those that we could actually bid towards. But all of these signals are coming in at an auction level basis, and very, very complex and very, very hard to actually optimize to every single time. And therefore, we really, really need to be utilizing the machine learning and the smart bidding technologies. So over the past year, smart bidding and all of the products under that umbrella have changed, and it's no longer the same algorithm as it was 6 months, 12 months, 2 years ago. Things are constantly changing and improving and getting more aligned with customers' businesses. So, for example, the actual algorithms has changed. The top signals in the recommendations tab have actually got a lot more rich and a lot more accurate. Things like the selective optimization beta are starting to rear its head, and we're actually starting to align our products with businesses now to allow to be optimizing towards multiple conversions, and so on and so forth.
Great. So now that we've taken a look at changes that have appeared over the past year, we're going to actually deep dive into smart bidding and why it's important to get involved. So working with Google's machine learning capabilities allows us to ultimately work smarter. So we're utilizing machine learning to rapidly analyze millions of signals and proactively set real-time auction level adjustments. And just to deep dive into what that means, Google's machine learning algorithms can now analyze up to 70 million signals within 100 milliseconds. So if you think about how that is being incorporated into auction level bidding, it's a massive step forward for us. Ultimately, Google's machine learning algorithms allow us to work faster as well. So when we take a step back and we're not manually adjusting our bids constantly, we're able to put time into upper funnel activities, into customer service, into expanding into different products and channels, and into creating really beautiful UX for our customers. And thirdly, Google's machine learning algorithm allows us to win more customers within our actually specified designated budget. So in general, we can achieve a higher return on investment using fully automated strategies. And to give you an idea of what that looks like, advertisers have actually seen an average uplift of about 30% in increasing conversions when using, for example, the likes of target ROAS and bidding strategy in the GDN.
So how smart bidding works, I mean, we are starting to delve into the how behind the why now, and actually looking at the product. So we'll quickly have a look through this. We've broken the sort of various different ways of bidding into four categories here. The first is manual bidding, which is obviously the most basic of the form, where you are optimizing towards the data that you can see in the account. The second would be rules-based bidding, so a little bit more complex and potentially could be bringing in things like scripts here, whereby you're running off of rules and certain conditions in which to increase and decrease bids. A little bit more complex, but obviously not ideal. The third, intraday bidding, is obviously where those bids are changed sort of multiple times a day, maybe sort of 2-3 times a day there. And then the fourth is actually our internal automation systems called smart bidding. So we actually are now looking at a couple of unique things with smart bidding here. So the first is true auction time bidding. Now, this is really important. It's the only system that actually optimizes towards each individual auction itself. So we're no longer actually making a sweeping assumption across a particular audience or a particular device. This is bids that are being changed at every single auction, which are happening obviously thousands of times a second. The second point here is that there's adaptive learning at the query level. Now, for ease of use, we sort of allow optimization at a keyword level, but each of those keywords could have thousands of different search terms associated to that one keyword. And therefore, the actual learning at the query level here is very sort of in depth and very important when it comes to actually analyzing the particular user and that particular value of that user. The richer user signals is really important as well. We have access to a primary level of obviously the Google proprietary data there, which includes thousands and thousands of signals, which we ran through a few earlier. But obviously these systems are utilizing those at an auction level basis, which is very, very important. Now, a pro tip and kind of a bit of a recent update as well is that our smart bidding solutions actually adjust for a lot of these signals automatically, i.e. there's no actual need or requirement to adjust for these yourself. Now, the sort of most recent update that we have is that a lot of the audiences are actually taken into account automatically now and no longer need to be applied at a campaign level. So another sort of small update, I suppose, as well, is that we're no longer actually recommending to layer enhanced cost per click on top of any sort of third-party systems we're using, simply because we actually haven't seen that there's any significant improved performance from that.
Okay, great. So we've looked at how smart bidding works. We've looked at changes of the past couple of months. Now we're going to actually delve into each specific smart bidding strategy. So just to begin, we're going to focus on target CPA. So target CPA is a bidding strategy that predicts conversion rate outcomes for a click in each auction based on all of the contextual signals present at the time of the auction. The main difference between TCPA and the likes of max conversions or target ROAS is that essentially it's looking to get you the maximum amount of conversions possible, but at your specified target cost per acquisition. Secondly, maximize conversions is a bidding strategy that also predicts the potential for conversion rate outcome for a click in each individual auction, again, based on all of the contextual signals present that we've already discussed. Maximize conversions is designed to spend your budget efficiently. So it's going to get you the maximum amount of conversions possible within your specified daily budget. And then thirdly, target ROAS is a bidding strategy that predicts the conversion value for every single auction. And essentially the difference between target ROAS and target CPA is that we're actually including revenue as a performance goal for this bidding strategy. And another thing to be aware of with TROAS is that it's taking in your own product data feed as a signal and then bidding up and bidding down depending on that also. Important to know as well that biddings and smart bidding in general can be really beneficial on smaller campaigns. Sometimes we can think that it's particularly useful for the larger campaigns with lots of data, but it's equally important for smaller campaigns. When we're using manual bidding on small campaigns, what this means is that we're selecting the same CPC for every single auction, irrespective of whether that conversion is likely to happen. But when we layer smart bidding on top of a small campaign, we're actually bidding up on those that are most likely to convert rather than those that are not. So it's just about using your budget more efficiently to gain the maximum amount of conversions possible.
Yeah, so just a couple of best practices now that we've sort of identified over the past couple of years when using these automated strategies. So the first is really that if we're going to be using a CPA or a target ROAS strategy, we really want the campaigns to not be budget constrained. And that is really because we're already restricting the systems and not allowing them to go after those higher value auctions, or indeed actually go through that learning period with the best possible amount of information and learnings from that. Likewise as well, impression share should not be maxed out. Now, there's a simple reason behind that, and that is that if you're maxing out an impression share, there's very little extra performance that the automated systems can actually go after. However, they can actually be looking at capitalizing on the more valuable percentage of that impression share. So actually going after the higher value users. Also, the third and sort of last best practice we have identified as well is that it's best to have sort of coherent and high volume ad groups. And now the reason for this is the more sort of data that we have going through the primary source of information, which is going to be ad group or campaign level, the better those and sort of more efficient those learnings are going to be. Now, obviously we have the update where the systems are looking at an account level now and are no longer restricted at campaign level learning. But the more sort of direct and primary information we can give it, i.e. at an ad group or campaign level, the better those are going to perform. So this is a really useful slide to actually sort of take down after this and use in your day-to-day basis when we're looking at discussing smart bidding with clients, or indeed just in the sort of daily workflow when we're looking at accounts. I'm not going to walk through it too much now, but there's sort of a clear decision workflow that you can look at there. So on to sort of common pitfalls that we've identified as well when looking at using smart bidding. We sort of identified 6 here, so I'll overview these now. But one of the most important ones for me is to actually set a too aggressive either CPA or ROAS goal when setting up target CPA or target ROAS. If they are unrealistic, you're essentially setting the system off on a back foot, and it's going to sort of hold back potentially on those higher value auctions, and you're not really going to give it the best chance to succeed. So setting a realistic target is absolutely number one of importance in my opinion there. So analyzing performance when the strategy is still in the learning period. The learning period is there because it's taking on board a lot of information, and hopefully, that will be as short as possible. But really, if we're going to be analysing that, it's unfair. So we need to give it its fair shot, and we can analyse that by looking at the conversion delay, which sort of nicely moves on to overlooking a high conversion delay as a pitfall. So if we have a 6 to 7 day conversion delay, for example, every decision that we make, every bid that we make is taking roughly 6 to 7 days to actually analyze the performance of that bid. That happens from a manual side, just as it would from an automated side. And so analyzing it during that delay is again, unfair and unrealistic. So looking at the wrong metrics, now this is again a really key thing. When we're using CPA and ROAS, we're actually looking at the value of the conversion and not the value of the click. So we need to move that mindset away from looking at rising CPCs, because at the end of the day, we sort of predict that if it's going after higher value auctions, i.e. a more competitive space, those CPCs may well rise as a nature of that. Campaign is budget constrained. We've walked through that previously, and making constant changes to campaigns. just like sort of science experiments, we need to be able to keep one sort of variable, and the rest of those need to be constant, so that we can actually evaluate what has made the difference in that campaign. And therefore, making constant changes to those campaigns makes it actually very, very hard to understand what has made that difference.
Great. So we've put in here a timeline that should help you understand how to evaluate your bidding strategy performance. And that can be broken down into 5 key steps. So in the first step, we're implementing our smart bidding, and then we're considering the learning period. So really, we don't recommend analysing your performance over that initial learning period, because obviously our algorithms are taking data in, they're getting learnings from it, and then they're deciding how to adjust bids based on that. Secondly, when a bid strategy is in the learning period, don't forget to limit any major changes to the campaigns. So we really don't recommend adjusting bids, adjusting targets, anything like that. Let it work and take the time to do that. Thirdly, once the learning period has ended, we're establishing basically a 2 to 4 week control period. And that's basically giving us enough time to understand how the smart bidding strategy is working post-learning period. And then fourthly, we need to consider conversion lag. It's hugely important to make sure that you're not analysing smart bidding performance before one full conversion cycle has taken place. Fifthly, after you've allowed the smart bidding algorithm to learn and to take all of that information in and to decide how to bid, you need to allow for the conversions to register and then begin analysing performance. And ultimately, to help you analyse how your smart bidding strategies are working, we would highly recommend using the standard bid strategy report. This can be found at a portfolio level, but also at campaign level. So in order to take a look at how your bid strategy report, you can follow the steps here. So you're going to your Google Ads account, you're clicking on the campaign that you want to analyze in particular, and then under the column bid strategy type, you'll be able to click on the rows for campaigns that use an automated bid strategy. So you're clicking on the row to see your actual bid strategy report, and that's in that green circle there. And this is what you see when you click on your bid strategy report. So you can decide the amount of time that you want to look at. Again, we'd recommend post-learning periods to take a look at this. And then you're also able to see a linear over time look at, say, for example, how your target CPA is doing, and also look at how conversions are doing during that time period as well. And typically we expect, for example, with a successful target CPA campaign, you'll start to see your cost per acquisition go down and ultimately your conversions go up. This is a really, really handy report to use when analysing how your smart bidding strategies are working. And that's a wrap for us. Thanks so much for coming in and listening to us today, and we'll talk to you again soon.